Hello, good morning. Welcome to another video of ES Futures Trading. Today is Wednesday, June 21st. It is 8:52 Eastern Time. It is 8:52 in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Okay. All right. Today we have an important thing that will happen today, which is Jerome Powell, Chairman Powell, speaking from Congress at 10 a.m. Uh, I I want to see if there is going to be. I want to see what can I see testimony. I obviously it's not here. Maybe it's MSNBC or some live feed. I wish I will need to find out soon. All right, the market from yesterday. We had this thing yesterday. We have this mini 45. I hope you have seen this. If you remember yesterday, this market was selling, was having hard times selling from this. It was selling, but after, let's start from the beginning. Can I play this? Can I make a replay here? Uh, let's see if I can make a replay. You know, with the replay, you will understand what's going on now. This is going to be really fast, okay? 9:25 yesterday. I have this one. I'm going to select my instrument. All right. Okay. All right. What is the overnight? Where is the overnight here? Okay, we have this overnight. There's another one here that cannot be seen here. Saddle is around here. Come on. Oh, come on. All right, saddle. This is saddle. Open up POC. Price low. distribution low, and this thing, distribution close. Alright? This is going to be really fast here. Alright? Market is open. Let's see. This high is not good. Did you see what happened here? Alright. The market opened and boom, right, counter-action to overnight inventory. Right? Just, but remember there was another POC here, somewhere in here, another overnight here inventory, very weak inventory, but the market couldn't even take this distribution, couldn't close this distribution yet, right? Couldn't close this distribution here, and this low is absolutely no good. We have a gap. The trade is go with the gap, does not fill quickly. You know, if there's any, if the gap is going to close, the buying will happen right away after the opening. I was checking this how this market build volume here, and boom, in this area. Now this low has been repaired. This high is good actually. All signs here. You know, the market re-enter. This distribution, it couldn't take it back. Now when that happened, notice what do we have here? There's nothing here holding this market. Nothing holding this market here. Single prints. Nothing. And the potential destination, we were watching our histograms. There was a big chunk of volume this area here, right there. Um, and the 4400, of course, is another reference. Non-excess low. Notice how the action to the downside has not been completed here. This is the first sign they have for today. Right? The action to the downside has not been completed. Signs that the short could have problems here. There was everything here. You know, you got a short. You know, you're very close to 40 to the 40, the 4400. This area, very mechanical buy. Now I'm going to speed up here. I'm going to speed up. This was the trade. I hope you have taken. And after that, just there was not just much. And you will see, and you will see how this market just keeps selling and selling. You know, when it takes this C high, you know, the trade to the downside is over. If you still have a short here, uh, you were waiting for some kind of confirmation that you know the downside is over. This was it. You know, the market was telling you, okay, look to the other side now. Doing this mental adjustment, right, is very important. Break, liquidation, and now short covering here. Not short covering, but a rally. But we got 1 week level here. Okay, notice this week level here. very mechanical level. Who's this just tells you who's doing the buying here. Who's buying? Who's buying this market? We got two now. We got this one. All right. Traders are just used to buy the dips. The market was just going higher and higher and higher for the last 2 months. Notice where this well, has nothing to say, but could say value area. It re-enters this value area here. This is the gap. And the interesting thing happens here. This right here. It's been sold from from part of a little bit of the gap is closed. The market been sold from previous overnight POC. Not a particular. This is not a good level to sell, but uh, but traders don't care. Right? Traders just see those levels. So let's sell it from there. Yeah. And you will see here how POC is down here. POC is down here, and what the market will and value is lower. Now value is higher. POC, what is POC now? POC is higher, and you will see something here. You know, this part of the profile will start to widen. Now we have another one, two, three, four, five, six, seven periods wide. And what the market is trying to do here is trying to go higher, right? Trying to go higher. But what happened? What happened every time the market tries to go higher is pulled back to POC. It's just pulled back to POC. Now let's go higher again. Market tried to go higher. POC. Every time this market tried to went higher, it was pulled back to POC. To what was POC at the end. But POC become wider and wider. This is a mini 45 here. This is a mini 40. You can see here mini 45. Uh, I mean, a mini 45 to the upside. This 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 is not telling you that the trade is to the downside, right? No. What it's telling me here, what it's telling you here is being long here, you know, being long here is the last thing I want to be because it's super risky. The market is trying to go higher and higher and higher, and every time it's just been pulled back. Uh-oh. I don't know. Every time it tried to go high, it just was pulled back. High, it was just pulling back lower and lower. No lower and lower. Yeah. It gave us, it left this weak reference in the upper side. This thing has a lot to do with what's happening right now at the up at. Oh, come on. Please. This always happens. No, it's not. I'm going to reopen my. Okay. This is the weak level in the upper side. This is three Y. This one. And these are, the whole thing, right? Remember what happened. What the heck is going on here? Yesterday, this week. Okay, I'm not to do this week here. Remember what happened here at the opening. There was a lot of trade around this area. It was being used as a support, to go higher. And now all of these loans here from yesterday, right now are underwater. Notice if the market opens down here, the market has taken his there is this level here, right? And there's this level here and this level as well. Now there's potential for, I see some potential for a sequential trade here. If this low is not taken, the market could come back and repair this high. But we were talking about how being long was the last thing I wanted to be here when this was happening yesterday. Right? Also, the market is there's change in the market. We have a gap here. We have a gap to the downside. The trend to the upside has ended. There's no more one time frame higher. So why you want to be long in a market that is going to the downside? Right? That's one of the first things you want to identify what the market is doing, what is the trend, for example, right? If the market is going to the downside, why I would be alone? Why I want to be alone? Well, something hard from yesterday also. I didn't have any kind of reference in volume, but I was comparing volume that we have yesterday to Thursday, not Friday because it was quarter which in there. This is very unusual. I was comparing to this day. At the end, it was lower than that day, but kind of like about the same as these days, about the same last week. It is in the lower side. Volume is in the lower side. That can give you some context to what is happening right now. And now, monitoring yesterday, when monitor for continuation, brings in the potential destination of yesterday's trade. What? 5 days here. Okay. In the lower side, this is the day. This is what I was checking in the lower side. You know. Now today we have something. Yesterday came down to this day. And it's very mechanical buy here. It is just not just poor low here, but also it's weak because it's very close to this low. Market is going to go to the downside. We need some new selling because there's nothing here. There's nothing here. What do we have? Meaning that if this is going to be long liquidation, okay, what happened here? Why, why not you loading? Okay, right there. There's all of this movement to the upside started with a spike here in this day. As long as the market, this is longer, kind of like a longer time frame. As long as the market keeps above this price of the spike, I guess this. I think this is long liquidation. There's a rebalancing of inventory going on here, which which is actually good for the long side. But it's also bad, right? But there's incredible amount of weakness in this market. We talk about that multiple times. Notice how the monthly. For example, month is having a breakout here. This monthly so far is safe. This month is it has a clear breakout as long as it comes to the 43.27. Where is the 43.27? It's like a 100 points below what where the market is today. If the market re-enters, tests these lows, re-enters this range, it could come all the way to the opposite side, which is this one, right? But to do that, first we need to take this low. Coming back inside this range, could target this low, right? Which will put the market inside this 2 month range. Re-entering this range, this 13-month range here. The first thing, the potential destination is this week low here. No, this level here from when the market was off. Now the weekly has a consistent trend to the upside. About 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks now the market is going to the upside. Uh, there's a gap here. This gap is not actually a gap. This is just this bar here is overlapping to this one. There's no gap here. This is when the contracts change. The those Thinkorswim do the contract adjustment. It reflected a gap here, but there's no gap here. References on the upper side are these round numbers. This 4600 coincide with this. I mean, the 4500 coincided with this, and the 4600 coincided with this level. These levels up here to monitor for the upside continuation. It seems very elevated. It seems very elongated to the upside. It's getting some upside. Um, is this market going to have upside continuation? That's the question here. You know, daily. Notice the breakout. This gap. Remember, do we have a gap here? No, we don't have a gap. You can see there's no gap here to be seen, right? There's no gap. This could be misleading. You know, this could be misleading. May see this gap. Okay, let's close the gap, but there's actually no gap. Short covering formation here that actually weakens the market, but the resolutions to the upside. There's a lot of shorts that were squeezed here. By the end in the last contract. Potential for 5 character effect. Gap 1, 2, 3, 4 week. I mean, 4 times market was bought at the same level. 50 moving hours here. 50 moving hours here. Another gap. No, the weakness in the lower side is what is something that I am carrying on here. But momentum is a force that you don't want to be against. Okay, if the market has momentum to the upside, just be aware. Okay, don't fight. You don't want to fight the trend. Now, give me a second here. Okay. Oh, come on. What I was saying is, if this market goes to the downside, notice this is FOMC day. This is FOMC day. There's nothing here holding this market. The next thing that relevance could be this breakout. There could be some resistance here, and of course the 4400 before that. And notice notice how this lower side has, I don't know, how the volume is in the lower side of this histogram here. Same goes here. But this is a breakout. This is a breakout. That's why the base of the spike is also a breakout. Daily breakout. Let's write that. Let's add that to daily breakout. Notice the formation here. Notice what happened here. This contract started to trade in 9. The 9 here. But notice how the market is trying to go lower here. You know, can you see the market going higher and here how it tries to go low? Tries to go low here. And all this inventory got cut short here. And it just get squeezed to the upside. The same thing, the same phenomenon that happened here could be happening here. I'm not saying the market is going to break 100 points. 4400 to this level, how much is this? 4350, that's 50 points. Okay, I'm not saying that. There is some odds though that these longs here can fuel some kind of break here in this market. Okay, have in mind what do we have here in this level here, this level here, and this level. This is very wide here. We have Chairman Powell testifying before Congress today at 10 a.m. and before the Senate tomorrow at the same time. That could bring, you know, could it bring some volatility to the market? Maybe. I don't know. But there could be some sequential trade here. Notice, notice how this trade is absolutely mechanical here. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times was sold from the same level, and after that, coming not very close to seller, exactly held back, exactly held back, exactly held back, exactly held back. Very mechanical, very mechanical. Overnight inventory is short, right? Very wide, prominent POC here. What's the volume? 220, not that bad. All right. A couple minutes from the opening now. Let me do something before that. All right. Okay. This market right now is inside previous day range. Opening inside previous day range advertised shop. This level has not been repaired. It has to happen during regular trading hours to be considered repair. Okay. The closer the market opens to the center of the previous day range, the higher the odds of having a rotation in the market. What the other markets are? What's happening in the other markets? Crude is in range. Dollar has this break. Bond market in range. Another liquidation. Will it be liquidation look at gold, man. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. This could be could have some serious liquidation. All right. Now, couple minutes, and a couple seconds, less than a minute to the opening. Okay. I think the first part of the sequential trade has been completed. Coming. Now, let's see. I want to see if the market takes this low here. Uh-oh. Take this, repass this weak level here. Downside continuation has this low here. And yesterday's low. There's some volume there. This level has been repaired. And the main thing is all these longs here could be just liquidated here. They're feeling the pain now. They're glued out to the market is going to take this, and I want to see what the market does with this level here. Very low volume though. Very low volume overall. The market overall. Sorry. This part of the trade, taking this loss, has been completed. Now there are some longs here now. There's these longs here from this part, this area, all this profile, that could be forced to liquidate. Mm, One of the important things in the over trader see is value area. I don't trade, I don't use it, but notice, you know, what is, I mean, monitoring your trade for continuation. We see the market taking this low here. This non-excess here. This is a weak low. This is a bad low. Bad low here. But we are still, we are inside Philips D range. That's the overnight inventory is very short. It's very short. We got short inventory from these days as well. No, very um got to be very careful here on both sides. Okay. Yesterday there was only one trade that I could see, which was the break. This is just so close, man. This is, I mean, there were. I want to see what the market does with the overnight inventory here. Right now is notice what happened here. Mechanical, half back, half back, half back, half back, half back. Five wide. Gosh, man, please look at the street now. And also pressure. There's a lot of pressure. The movements to the downside, right? There was a lot of pressure here. The market couldn't take this level here. Just look at volume here. This is the lowest in the last 10 days. Lowest volume in the last 10 days. Notice how volume just is is the market is building around this level here. It's just soon. There's no buyers here. Some buying starts appears here. There's no sellers here. Let's see. The first part of the sequential trade has been completed. Which part was that? Taking this loss, huh? Taking this week, taking this, oops, taking this weak reference from this weak level the traders used to buy yesterday. Downside continuation, we see the market taking yesterday's low. If that doesn't happen, watch the upside. Okay, this market come all the way up to here, all the way up to here, and still be a downside market. As long as this high is not taken, which is if the market comes back up to here, let's go. The other market is going to take it because there's a bunch of stops here. There's a lot of stops here. And the market just yeah. It has a good selling from the opening, but it's just come on. The market is ignoring completely. It's ignoring the overnight inventory here. Notice where this market was bought from. This area, huh? Remember this? There's still a lot of volume here. Just below this low. The market is still having a lot of activity in this area. It hasn't gave up. No? It didn't come back inside this range, inside the overnight range. The 4410 was. This also notice how this also hard back, overnight hard back. This overnight hard back. It's kind of like looking too. I am looking too far. I mean, too deep here. Like if I was trying to look for something, right? This could be just coincidence. What is this level here? 4440. 4440 are 2 points. Those calls are 2 points. Look at this. 4440 is this level here. 2 points. Maybe 4430, which is saddle. This is a downside market, okay? This is a downside market. This is a market to the downside. But opening inside 30-day range, advertise chopping, advertise chop. The closer to the center, the higher the odds of chop, the higher the odds of having a rotational market. In the lower side, monitoring for continuation, we have this. I think this is an important level here, the 4410 here, the lack of aces. If the market repairs, comes back and repairs this poor low here and weak, it will put the market very close to this low, coming down here for some very close to this low, right? So if the market repairs this low, it could have good also taking this low as well. And what we have below the 4400, this may have seen the 4400 already. What happened in this day? This is too far back in time. No, this is not relevant. All these shorts here, oh, look, notice all these shorts here, market going to the downside. They have been, they're out now. They were squeezed to the upside. So what happened with the market has a downside squeeze, an upside squeeze? For shorts are forced to cover, that actually weakens the market, right? Because the buying that you are having during a rally that is a short cover is what kind of buying you have there? You have shorts being forced to cover. That's the kind of buying. Those are traders getting out. Those are trading closing positions, getting out of the market. Those are not new positions. The market is weak, gets weak when it is in short covering mode. Man, the volume is super low. Guys, look at the volume. Look at the volume here. I'm going to move this one down here. To have the same volume as yesterday, right now should have been down here. But there's no volume, notice. There's no volume here, right now. So what the market is trying to do, what the market is doing, market is going to the downside, right? It's not having the volume here. Okay, that's one piece of information. Right there. Right there you have one piece of information, okay? Volume, overall volume is low. Now, if I'm going to look to the app, value, value is lower, okay? Value is lower. Market is very close to having a breakout, having to repair. This level here is not a reference anymore. The market was sold very close to the value area low. Not particularly a good reference. There's volume being built here. We got some. The question is, can we have some things there? Some things. We got some 8 here. If the market comes back down here, there could be some things here. The market, notice how the market has this small rally, but it's not it's not having the strength yet even to come back inside overnight. Did you see that? Okay, it's selling right from the overnight. That's not good, man. It's selling right. It went up right to overnight low. Now let's try to take this low again. Okay, okay. It's kind of cold here. I guess I have the AC too cold. It's noisy. Ah, I'm trying to find a live feed for Chairman Powell testimony. It starts at 10. If you have a link, please let me know. I will just um maybe MSNBC will have it. I don't know. All right, let's take this low now. The market kind of like it doesn't have the conviction to go and take. Look at the volume, my God. Look at the volume here. It's incredibly low. We are kind of like seven, two-thirds, more than two-thirds. And this is not going to, this is not going to have the same volume. Don't tell me you are going to buy. Come on. You're going to buy from yesterday's low? That would be crazy. I mean, that's a good reference, man. That's a good level. You want the location there? That could be something. There could be something there. But remember, the market is going to the downside. There's change in the market. There could be some sideways trading relative to the previous days. It is very rare having a market that goes straight up and then is followed by the straight break. Right? A break straight to the downside. Like a V formation. V formations are not usual and not common. This seems like it is just, gosh, it was just, these loans have been forced to liquidate here. Now there's a volume here. There's volume here that's been built. We have volume here. We have volume from the overnight, short from the overnight, and need to notice this. Overnight, overnight short, overnight, one, two, three. Okay, this market is getting shorter and short. It is incredible, unbelievable how the market goes from too long to having inventory too long to too short in such a short period of time, man. Just a couple days and inventory is super short. I mean, short in the hands of the weakest traders, right? Now, don't tell me you're going to buy from here. Okay, this is trade. It's such a dangerous level here. I mean, going long here is almost suicidal. You have to see the doctor if you go long here. You don't have appreciate you. It seems like you have lived long enough if you go long here. It's a super risky level to go long. Okay. This low has been repaired. Seems like the market directed traders have seen the 4400 here. Okay, market's out of balance now. Yeah, market's out of balance. You don't want to see. I don't want to see the market coming back inside this range. You got short. I don't want to see the market coming back inside. Maybe once, to check and then continue its break to the downside. Did you see, or can you see what we were talking about here? In the market repairing this low, put the market very close to this low, right? So this is a good low now relative to this day, but it's not such a good level relative to this day here. There's no axis here. There's a bunch of stops here. There's a bunch of stops. You have 4,400 here, you know. There's going to be a lot of stops below the 4,400. And to that, you got a lot of stops here in this area. And to that, add these days, and these days stops. And there's a lot here. Now, when the market gets back inside this 2 day range, the destination is this low here. This is the ultimate destination on this day here. Okay? That's the ultimate destination. It's 43.83, which is this one here. Just was looking. That was part of my homework from yesterday. Now, the market has come back inside yesterday's range. Okay? Remember how there was a selling coming exactly from this day, this low? Okay, okay, okay. You have any questions, comments, please let me know. I would love to hear. I would love to hear. Remember, markets out of balance. I guess I have. This is just think of three. Life and capital. There is have seen the 4,400 here. The pace have increased now. Now we are out of balance. Potential destination 43.80. Or ultimate destination. I guess that's better, right? The ultimate destination is the opposite side of the range. When the market really enters this 2-day range. Now, let's see if the market really enters this A range. It did not, it was sold from this level, right? It was sold right from there. Was sold right from overnight low, right from A low. Some form of buying is I mean, you can see that there's no there is no spike yet to the downside. Uh-huh. These longs here now are well underwater. These longs from yesterday. Yeah. There's a mm, traders, what traders do, they are long here. Instead of liquidating the position, they start to dollar average and they start to buy more here. So they are long, they are not long here, but they are long up here, for example. Right? Instead of having just to be just for to be long one position at this level, there are long positions at this level. It's still underwater. Come on, I cannot find. Really? I guess PBS is going to broadcast Chairman Powell testimony. Oh, I missed this. God damn.
Persistent, two troubling trends the Fed expects will continue. As you said
Just
last week, the process of getting inflation back.
let's hear to what Chairman Powell has to say. Um, and let's see, and also at the same time, let's see how the market reacts to what he says. Okay.
And I urge you to continue that resolve. A few weeks ago, Congress took the first step toward getting our fiscal house in order through the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Republicans will continue fighting for sensible spending reductions to combat inflation. This stands in stark contrast to Democrats' spending spree that poured nearly $2 trillion into a supply-constrained economy that was already flush with trillions of savings provided by earlier bipartisan.
I'm not interested in this, what this has to say. I'll come back to him when Chairman Powell has actually starts talking. Okay, markets out the bottoms. Markets out the bottom. I don't want to see things like this when the market comes back inside the range. Coming back inside the range also is very dangerous. It could target the opposite side of the range, especially now that we have absolutely short inventory from the overnight and this kind of like a multiple levels here. It is true that we have the 4400. The market could have seen the 4400. I expect something going around here, but notice this market doesn't have conviction here. No, look at the volume here. Right? This is the first thing that is telling me, it's telling you, it's telling everybody, watch out. Now be careful here in this market. Notice the amount of volume this market, very low volume. This could break long distance today, and but it doesn't have volume. But at least until now, it doesn't have volume. Everybody's watching. Everybody's watching Chairman Powell. All right. If you have anything, please let me know. Any questions? Any comments? I am thinking to. I think I will open a Discord channel for everybody that's interested, just exclusively to ES futures, ES markets, futures markets. Notice, come on, man. Look let's check the volume. Let's check the histograms here. You know, high volume, high concentration at the center here of this period. V or B have not challenges. None this inventory here. All this short inventory here. Market. This is the second time the market is coming back inside this range. Okay. I suspect this could be some good swings today, some violent swings in the market. In the upper side, we have this reference 4140, and the lower side, this low, which is the potential destination of this trade, is coming down. Potential destination of this day. But the markets, before that, but before taking this low, the market has to deal with the 4400. Traders have to deal with the 4400. Now, let's hear now. But still,
since President Biden took office. So far, there's been 29 straight months of strong job growth. In fact, a record 13 million jobs have been created since President Biden took office. Democrats are working to build on this progress and grow the middle class so that everyone can share in this economic growth. Republicans, however, just can't seem to get their house in order on the heels of almost blowing up our economy by forcing a national default. They are now picking a fight over a tiny fee of less than 1% of total housing costs. Ignoring the costs home buyers are paying with 7% interest rates, appraisal fees,
Oh,
and
what is the volume
title
of this?
insurance. Instead, they're fighting about gas stoves. In fact, just a week ago, Republican disarray got so bad that it halted business on the House floor for the first time in 20 years. Lastly, as we continue to monitor the banking.
Uh, it's still not much there. And then I'm interested in see. I mean, can you see the potential here? The potential for the market. Yeah, this could be a big whip. So the market has already taken these lows here, this week level. Took previous has repaired this low, has took this low out as well. It is very close to the 4,400. It's not usually the market takes these levels the right way. Usually the first time there's some buying there. This is the second time the market has come back inside this range. It actually puts this high, you know, this high as a possible destination here. If there is something to the upside, it will depend on what Chairman Powell has to say. Oh, look at that! Look at these levels here. Okay, this will sell out now. Again, this is the second time the market is being sold from the overnight low. It was sold here, remember? When we have this downside movement, it was sold. Market when the market was building volume here, was building volume here. It came back exactly to the tick to overnight low. Now B has B has made the same exactly exactly to this low. Just be careful here. You got to be very careful. And now this will be some. There will be some. I think there are good also there are going to be some good swings here. I won't see the market gets too long or too short in the intraday. Now, when you look markets in terms of inventory, okay, when you look in terms of inventory, you start to see the market in a different way. You have seen the inventory being built in this area, right? When now, if there is something to the upside here, volume, this low, this white here will start becoming red, or some pinks or red will start to appear up here. These shorts now could be a risk. Now we have a good amount of inventory down here, right? Good amount of inventory down here. Just trade is getting too short. Trade is not realizing the tremendous danger they are in just because of these multiple multiple levels up here. And the overall inventory, overnight short inventory being in hands of overnight traders. Short inventory in hands of overnight traders. That's a weak market. Got to be very careful there.
economic activity has continued to expand at a modest pace.
All right.
Although growth in consumer spending has picked up this year, activity in the housing sector remains weak,
Come on.
largely reflecting rates. Higher interest rates and slower output growth also appear to be weighing on business fixed investment. The labor market remains very tight. Over the first 5 months of the year, job gains averaged a robust 314,000 jobs per month. The unemployment rate moved up but remained low in May at 3.7%. There are some signs that supply and demand in the labor market are coming into better balance. The labor force participation rate has moved up in recent months, particularly for individuals aged 25 to 54. Nominal wage growth has shown some signs of easing, and job vacancies have declined so far this year. While the jobs to workers gap has narrowed, labor demand still substantially exceeds the supply of available workers. Inflation remains well above our longer run goal of 2%. Over the 12 months ending in April, total personal consumption expenditures prices rose 4.4%. Excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 4.7%. In May, the 12-month change in the CPI came in at 4.0%, and the change in the core CPI was 5.3%. Inflation has moderated somewhat since the middle of last year. Nonetheless, inflation pressures continue to run high, and the process of getting inflation back down to 2% has a long way to go. Despite elevated inflation, longer-term inflation expectations.
The main thing here, the market has re-entered previously range. Market come out, re-enter, and is having question of selling. Um, the the catalytic of anything that can happen today is, I think, has will have to do a lot. Will have a lot to do with what Chairman Powell has to say. Just be aware of whatever he has to say. Not what he says, but how the market reacts to what he says. Okay.
Full effects of monetary restraint to be realized.
This is just a statement, the open statements that he has. Is, I guess the important part will come with questions and answers.
Certain. In light of how far we have come in tightening policy, the uncertain lags with which monetary policy affects the economy, and potential headwinds from credit tightening, the FOMC decided last week to maintain the target range for the federal funds rate at 5 to 5.25% and to continue the process of significantly reducing our securities holdings. Nearly all FOMC participants expect that it will be appropriate to raise interest rates somewhat further by the end of the year. But at last week's meeting, considering how far and how fast we've moved, we judged it prudent to hold the target range steady to allow the committee to assess additional information and its implications for monetary policy. In determining the extent of additional policy firming that may be appropriate to return inflation to 2% over time, we will take into account the cumulative tightening of monetary policy, the lags with which monetary policy affects economic activity, inflation, and inflation, economic, and financial developments. We will continue to make our decisions meeting by meeting based on the totality of incoming data and their implications for the outlook for economic activity and inflation, as well as the balance of risks. We remain committed to bringing inflation back down to our 2% goal and to keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Reducing inflation is likely to require a period of below-trend growth and some softening in labor market conditions. Restoring price stability, again, is essential to set the stage for achieving maximum employment and stable prices over the longer run. Before concluding, let me briefly address the condition of the banking sector. The U.S. banking system is sound and resilient. As detailed in the box on financial stability in the Monetary Policy Report, the Fed, together with the Treasury and the FDIC, took decisive action in March to protect the U.S. economy and to strengthen public confidence in our banking system. The recent bank failures, including that of Silicon Valley Bank, and the resulting bank stress have highlighted the importance of ensuring that we have the appropriate rules and supervisory practices for banks of this size. We are committed to addressing these vulnerabilities to make for a stronger and more resilient banking system. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. We at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. I now recognize myself for 5 minutes. Chairman Powell, as I laid out in my opening statement, inflation continues to be broad-based and persistent, both of which are concerning. Last week, the Federal Open Markets Committee decided to pause rate increases. And at the same time, the committee alluded that it would raise rates more later in the year. And so how should the FOMC's posture at the June meeting be interpreted? Will the committee continue to raise rates later this year? What's the thinking of this? What are we to understand?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you're right, of course. We did decide to maintain the federal funds rate at its current rate at this meeting. At the same time, participants submitted personal forecasts suggesting that almost all of them thought there would be additional hikes. And I just want to say those two things are entirely consistent. The point being that the level to which we raise rates is actually a separate question of the speed with which we move. Earlier in the process, speed was very important. It's not very important now. The sense of the summary of economic projections and the decision really is just that, given how far we've come, it may make sense to move rates higher, but to do so at a more moderate pace. That's really it. You know, we were at 75 basis points for several meetings, then we were at 50 basis points, then 50 basis points, 25 basis points at 3 consecutive meetings, and now we're moderating that pace, much as you might do if you were to be driving 75 miles an hour on the highway, then 50 miles an hour on a local highway, and then as you get closer to your destination, as you try to find that destination, you slow down even further.
Okay. So it is more data is necessary for the Fed to make these decisions, and that's one interpretation, but thank you for a broader view there. I also want a broader view on this question of the Vice Chair for Supervision is performing his own personal holistic review of the Fed's regulatory framework for bank capital and liquidity. In an interview yesterday, he discussed some version of a new type of stress test even, striking complete confusion in his description of it. And at the same time, we have testimony from you, even from the Vice Chair of Supervision, saying that we have a sound banking system that is well capitalized. You will sit in judgment of this proposal that the Vice Chair for Supervision will bring to the full board on this holistic review of capital. There are a lot of discussions about the amount of capital he's talking about, the concern that this is pro-cyclical at a time where our economy with higher rates is, you're measuring what's happening in the broader economy, and at the same time we're going to have a major piece of capital required by financial institutions, which will further restrict lending. So how can you tell us to think about that, given your seat on the Open Markets Committee and as a Fed governor? How would you interpret that?
So I guess I would say you're right. There are a significant number of proposals that are kind of in the works. They haven't been finalized, let alone brought to the board yet, and so I can't really get into specific details today.
Well, we like your thinking, Chairman Powell. That's what we'd like.
What I can share is, principles and how I will think about this. Regulatory proposals go to the board. Every person on the board, that's 6 governors now, has an obligation to evaluate and vote on those, and I'm one of those people. I also chair the board. So a couple things I would point out. Just first that, I think regulation should be transparent and consistent and not too volatile, and particularly as it relates to capital requirements. I do note the central importance of capital. We want banks to be resilient to shocks. We want them to be able to lend in good and bad times. We want, in particular, the G-SIBs, the 8 largest banks, to have high levels, very high levels of capital and liquidity. Indeed, we spent years raising those levels over a long period of time. And I think there's broad agreement, as you point out, that capital is strong. And, the question there will be what sorts of increases will be justified. That's what we'll be looking at. The other thing is to point out the trade-off between higher capital. The benefit of it, of course, is to have stronger banks that can lend and maybe survive more kinds of crisis environments. But, there are costs as well. And I think it's going to be, as always, a question of weighing and balancing those costs. And that's what I'll be thinking about. The last thing I'll say about that is just we benefit from having banks of all different shapes and sizes in our system. And we want to be careful not to regulate the smaller banks to the point where really their business models are challenged for all but the largest banks.
Well, this committee would expect to see a quantitative analysis of whatever the capital charge is going to be. We would expect that from the Fed, as we do from other regulators. With that, we'll now recognize the ranking member of the full committee, Ms. Waters, for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Chair Powell, at this committee's last hearing on digital assets, my Republican colleagues proposed a stablecoin bill that would create 58 different licenses with federal regulatory approval over only 2 of the licenses. The remaining 56 licenses can be issued by each state, territory, and D.C. with little or no federal oversight, regulation, and enforcement. This proposal takes state preemption into a whole new level. It effectively allows every state to preempt another state. DC-based coins, for example, would be sold to individuals nationwide, and New York or North Carolina regulators could do nothing to protect their own residents, while even the Fed would be severely hamstrung in providing any oversight. I've argued that we should allow states to be part of this process, but we must have a strong, enforceable federal floor with a role for the Federal Reserve to approve and provide oversight of payment stablecoins issued by non-banks in order to ensure that consumers are protected. Such a framework is similar to our dual banking system, and it would ensure that non-banks and banks are treated the same. We should also bear in mind that payment stablecoins are a new form of currency intended to allow individuals to pay for things with them. As such, do you agree that it is important for the Fed, as our central bank, to have a chance to approve or decline any state licensed non-bank entity before it starts issuing payment stablecoins nationwide?
Well, first of all, let me say we appreciate that we've been able to offer our views on these things to your staff and also the majority staff, and we appreciate the consideration that's given to our views. We do see payment stablecoins as a form of money, and in all advanced economies, the ultimate source of credibility in money is the central bank, and we believe that it would be appropriate to have quite a robust federal role in what happens in stablecoins going forward, and that leaving us with a weak role and allowing a lot of private money creation at the state level would be a mistake. But nonetheless, again, I do appreciate that we've been able to be heard and share our views with the committee.
Well, thank you so very much. I am appreciative for that clear answer. The next question that I have for you is a bit unusual. But one of the reasons we push diversity is because those things that have not been discussed, issues of people of color, etc., have not been dealt with. I'm going to throw you something that you would not expect. Earlier this week, our nation celebrated Juneteenth, which Congress recognized as a national holiday for the first time since 2021. The holiday celebrates the day enslaved African Americans in Texas heard that they were free, 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued. To this day, Black Americans grapple with enduring racial economic inequality that has its roots in slavery, as evidenced by the black-white gap in net worth and home ownership rates. My bill, the Federal Reserve Racial and Economic Equity Act, would require the Federal Reserve to carry out its duties in a manner that supports the elimination of racial and ethnic disparities in employment, income, wealth, and access to affordable credit. Now, The Fed has a number of duties to pursue maximum employment in the monetary policy, to supervise banks for compliance with our fair lending laws, and to ensure the Community Reinvestment Act is administered in a way that puts an end to discriminatory redlining practices by banks. Do you agree with me? And Atlanta Federal Reserve President Raphael Bostic, among others, that the Fed has a role to play in addressing racial economic inequality as it carries out its work until Congress passes this bill. What steps will the Fed can you take to address racial and economic inequality?
So we do consider inequality in the economy as part of our thinking about decisions, but ultimately, and those are certainly highly valuable social goals to pursue. I would say our ability to take part in addressing those issues is fairly limited. We have one federal interest rate that we set. We do try to keep in mind, as you know, not just the aggregate national level of unemployment or employment, but also that for different ethnic groups. So we take that into account. But I would think, and I think that's just part of making sure that we feel like we have all Americans in the room with us when we're making decisions on monetary policy. I will say, though, I think other agencies are better suited to address these deep issues.
Thank you. We must have this continued discussion on racial equality. I yield back.
The lady yields back. We'll now go to the Vice Chair, Mr. Hill of Arkansas, for 5 minutes.
I thank the chairman of the committee, and Chairman Powell, great to have you back before the committee. And this morning, you've reiterated, and certainly Vice Chair Barr has reiterated a number of times, that the banking industry here in the United States is well capitalized. And in fact, capital levels have remained robust despite COVID-19, with a 20% plus unemployment rate increase and a 9% output gap. They've remained stable through government shutdowns. They've remained stable through severe stress testing. And maybe more importantly, just in the last few months, since the first week of March, you've seen strong capital come into play as we've grappled with the reality of a 40-year increase in short-term interest rates and that impact on banks. But as the chairman said, Michael Barr continues to say he wants to increase capital requirements on certain financial institutions. And in March, you testified that you said, I will do everything I can possibly do to bring people together, meaning on the Board of Governors, in consensus and have a capital framework that could be broadly supported. So to what extent have you and the other governors been involved in this so-called holistic review by Vice Chair Barr? Has he briefed the other members of the Board of Governors thus far?
Yes, and we've all been briefed by staff, really, on the proposals, but as I mentioned, they're still somewhat in motion. But yes, we've been briefed.
So you would say those proposals are still under consideration and that there's no final decision that's been taken by the board?
No, well, no. Once the proposals really do settle down and are written up, they'll come to the board for a full discussion and a vote.
Has the Fed board reconstituted now the Committee on Supervision and Regulation? The membership of it?
Oh,
who's on that committee now?
So that committee is chaired by Vice Chair Barr, and it also includes Governor Jefferson, and it includes Governor Bowman.
When you look at capital in the U.S., and I look at the globally significant banks here versus other places in the world, would you say that the U.S. banks, the U.S. G-SIBs, are better capitalized than their global peers in Europe or in Asia?
So we're certainly at or near the top of the league table. I think there are a couple other jurisdictions that also have broadly similar levels of capital strength. But yes, we're at the top of the league table.
I looked at it this morning, and U.S. G-SIBs have 11.3% capital without any kind of modification compared to their European competitors at only 9.9%. So would you say that we're better capitalized than the European banks, the European G-SIBs?
I hate to call out the other jurisdictions, but I would say our banks are very strongly capitalized and also competing quite successfully globally outside the United States.
Yeah, I agree, and I think we've strengthened capital, we've strengthened our supervision, notwithstanding the problems that we saw this spring, which we've talked about ad nauseum here. But that capital standard does make American banks, I think, stand out. And wouldn't Basel, the so-called Basel III holistic reforms, wouldn't it be better if the European banks did a holistic review and actually got their capital up to American standards?
So I think they are bound by the same, no one's bound by these, but they have agreed to follow the same standards, and I think they're going through the same process we're going through.
Same topic, are the FDIC supervisory process and the OCC supervisors, are they involved and engaged with Vice Chair Barr in looking at this, quote, holistic review of capital adequacy? In other words, are they providing their input to the Vice Chair for supervision in their own views on this topic?
On the regulatory proposals that are relevant to them, yes. I think on the capital proposals, yes, I believe so.
And you made a comment a minute ago, I think, to Chairman McHenry's questions about that you'd like to see rules and supervisory rules consistent over time. And I think that's frustrating here. We see change in administration sometimes, and we see change in rules, which is, I think, frustrating to the private sector and to market participants. I note that the Biden administration says that the Financial Stability Oversight Board should now base their decisions on size as opposed to activities. And for several years now, we've had an activities designation and a cost-benefit analysis. Do you think the activities designation gives supervisors more discretion at FSOC to select who should be deemed under their supervision?
So I actually think that
in other words, is size alone, should we be looking only at size, or should we look at cost-benefit analysis and activities? And my time's expired. If you'd answer in writing, I would appreciate it. I think this is an important issue. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
We'll now go to Ms. Velasquez of New York for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chair Powell, at your press conference last week, you stated, and I quote, "The committee is completely unified in the need to get inflation down to 2% and will do whatever it takes to get it down to 2% over time." Some analysts have interpreted this statement as the FOMC's willingness to trigger a recession in order to get inflation to 2%. How would you respond if this is a fair and accurate interpretation?
So our statutory goals are price stability and maximum employment, and we are dedicated to using our tools to achieving those. In the case of employment, we still have historically low unemployment rates and high employment rates now, high participation, a very strong labor market. We're very far from our inflation target of 2%, and we're very focused on getting back to 2%.
And how does the FOMC takes into consideration the impact of rising interest rates on LMI communities and small businesses when determining monetary policies?
So we only have one interest rate to raise or lower. It's not true, but mainly one main interest rate to raise or lower, and it applies to everyone. But I would say that inflation hits LMI communities and people generally at the lower end of the income spectrum much harder than people in the middle or at the high end, because high inflation can get you into trouble right away if you're living on a fixed income just to cover the basic necessities. So it is for the benefit of those people that we must get inflation under control. It's for the benefit of all Americans, but particularly for those people. And we keep that in mind as we are strongly committed to getting inflation back down to 2% over time.
Well, and they are the same people that are having a hard time accessing loans, the same with small businesses. Chair Powell, Vice Chair Barr's report on the Fed's review of Silicon Valley Bank states that while there was regulatory tailoring conducted in response to S-2155, there was also, and this is the part that really concerns me, a cultural shift at the Fed under the direction of the previous Vice Chair for Supervision, Randy Quarles. According to the report, this shift included pressure to reduce burdens on firms, meet a higher burden of proof for a supervisory conclusion, and a need to accumulate more evidence than in the past. As chair during that period, were you aware of this cultural shift and the impact it was creating?
So I think we learned from the Silicon Valley failure and the others, that there is going to be a need for stronger supervision and also regulation for banks of that size. And I'm committed to learning the right lessons from this exercise and to forthrightly implementing
But
changes.
were you aware of the cultural shift?
So I can't really characterize it that way. Certainly, I was aware that we were trying to avoid excessive regulatory burden. That
So
is
you
always an
disagree
appropriate
with
thing.
Chair Barr's report in that respect?
I'm sure that the people who wrote the report were accurately reporting what they heard from back in the day.
How often were you meeting with Vice Chair Quirrells?
Reasonably frequently, we sat quite near each other.
And never discussed the cultural shift?
I didn't say that, but I don't remember it. The way you're describing it is not what I recall. I recall Vice Chair Quarles talking about things like focusing on the really important issues and not getting diverted into other.
So the way it was described by Vice Chair Barr is not what you recall?
Well,
So
I
what
had no
steps?
part in. I said I had no part in preparing the report. I'm confident that the staff who worked on the report reported accurately what they heard. I'm sure that that's right.
So what steps did you take proactively to meet with regulatory and supervisory staff?
Well, I think we're taking significant steps now. As you know, under Vice Chair Barr's leadership, we're looking carefully at these events and asking ourselves, what do we need to do with supervision? And I think there is a point to be made that there are situations in which we need to be more forceful and more proactive. Not in all situations, but in some. In regulation, I think we're learning that we need to update our thinking around liquidity regulation, which was based on a certain speed of bank runs, which now looks to be outdated.
My time has expired.
The gentlelady's time's expired. We'll now recognize the gentleman from New York, Mr. Garbarino, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Powell, thank you for being here. I just want to start off by asking a few yes or no questions. Was the Silicon Valley Bank failure a result of a liquidity issue?
I'm sorry.
Was Silicon Valley Bank failure a result of the liquidity issue?
Among other things, yes.
Signature Bank failure, the result of a liquidity issue?
Yes, I mean, that's not, there's also a lot of very bad management decisions being made here.
But
Yeah.
liquidity. First Republic, was that a failure result of a liquidity issue also?
Among other things, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say just liquidity.
Well, all right. Were any of them a failure of having too low capital levels?
So let's go to Silicon Valley Bank. The issue that triggered the run initially was the presence of significant losses in their securities portfolio.
Yes.
And that is that is a capital issue.
So they had too low a capital, the requirements. So what?
They weren't required to, as you know, they weren't required to take that into account in their capital. But I think if you remember that what people were focusing on was these portfolio losses, and then what people weren't focusing on was the fact that they had in excess of 90% uninsured deposits, and that's what caused the run.
So would increasing capital requirements for Silicon Valley Bank or any of these other banks or all banks together, would that have stopped these banks from failing?
That's a hypothetical, unknowable question. I think it might have helped. I think it might have helped, but
How much then? Increasing it by how much would have helped?
It's very hard to say. Very hard to say. I mean, clearly the main issue there was a failure of management to follow up, a failure of supervision to require them to follow up, and really the liquidity regulation was just not appropriate. We needed to have stronger regulation around liquidity and uninsured deposits.
So last year you said the banking system is very strong, well capitalized, highly liquid, does a much better job of understanding the risks that it runs and managing them. And just today you said the banking sector seems to be strong. Do you still stand by those statements? I mean, you just said it today.
Yes.
So, yep. Last month, Vice Chair Barr appeared before this committee, and he agreed with you and said overall banks have a strong capital and liquidity. Secretary Yellen has said similar things. But today, even though you've all said that banks seem to have strong capital, you seem to lead us today by saying the bank's considering what increase would be appropriate of capital requirements. So has the board already decided that an increase will happen? They're just deciding what's the size of the increase for capital
No,
requirements?
what I meant to say, what I thought I said was that any increase above these levels would need to be shown to be justified.
So I understand, and you have a vote as whether or not what this proposal, you'll vote on whether or not, do you personally think that an increase is necessary at this time?
Do I think?
Okay, sorry about that. I was just watching or hearing the testimony. It is they still some things can keep going on. Look at the market couldn't come back inside overnight, even overnight profile, and now it seems like it I've set its site in the 4400. Remember, the potential destination is the opposite side of this range. You know. Still, it cannot come out fully out of this range. There's still, this level here is something that I am watching as well. This level here, you got that one and this one up here. But the trend is right now. There's a trend to the downside. Yeah, the market we have a downside market, but very vulnerable though. All right. All right. I wish you guys a good rest of the day. Stay safe. See you later or see you tomorrow. Bye bye.